Welcome to Hustle and Flow with Heather Hubbard, episode number 81. Hi, I'm Heather Hubbard, and I was a litigator, partner, and practice group leader at an AmLaw 200 firm. I know what it takes to rise to the top. I also know all too well the toll it can take on your personal life. So how do you shine bright without burning out? How do you embrace your ambition without selling your soul? You're listening to the Hustle and Flow podcast. Welcome back. I am your host, Heather Hubbard, and thank you so much for joining me this week. Today, we are talking about networking and why I think it is nonsense. So let's start with a caveat. If you are networking and that is your primary way of getting business and you love it, and it's working for you, and you get all kinds of opportunities. Maybe it's just career advancement, career opportunities. If it is working for you, then, just don't even listen to this episode because it is rare, but it can happen. Okay. So if you love it and it's working for you, then just don't listen to what I've got to say today. But if it's only somewhat working, or you hate it, or you don't even really know if it's working or not. You just know that's what you're supposed to do. That's what people tell you to do. You know that you are supposed to be out in the community. You're supposed to be going to these networking events. And so, you do it and you're doing your best, but you have no idea if it's paying off because maybe you've had a referral or two or a lead or two. But when you really think about all of the time and the money and the energy that you've invested, and you're like, if I'm really looking at what the payoff is, I'm not sure that it's there, then this episode is for you because I'm not just going to share why I think networking is nonsense, but I'm also going to let you know what I think you can be doing instead that's going to be far more valuable and productive. Okay, so first and foremost, there is a place for networking if you're doing it right. One reason why you want to consider networking is because maybe you've moved to a new city or a new town, or you are just starting out as a lawyer and you don't really know anyone else in the community. If that's the case, then networking is fine, but you still need to follow the rules, and we'll go through those in a minute. But in that instance, networking can be a great way for you just to kind of get your bearings and get a feel for a particular community or industry or the other attorneys in your town or practice area for that matter, even if it's regional or national. Another reason why you want to consider networking is because it's a great place to do research. So if you are getting ready to implement a new business development strategy where there is a group of people that are going to be in a room together, whether it's other lawyers or maybe, it's in-house, maybe it is the type of client you want to work with, right? Like it's some type of conference or something like that. That can be a great place for networking too, but you're not really networking. You're going in there to ask questions of the people in there, assuming they have some similarities and they have the answers you're looking for. It's a great way to really survey a group. But again, you're not going in there for general networking. You're going in there to get information that you're going to use later. In my mind, those are the only two generic networking situations that you would ever want to go into. And I get that there might be pushback on that because it is something that is told to young attorneys over and over again from panels on how to get started doing your business development to panels where, very established partners with large books of business tell you that that's how they got their business, but that was a long time ago. And the legal market has changed. There are a lot more lawyers. They are probably white men where networking is beneficial from a good old boy club. And this may be unpopular. We have so many different organizations out there. So many organizations. And they all really depend on you needing and wanting to network. A lot of them would need to shut their doors if they weren't asking you to come to regular lunches or other monthly or at least quarterly networking type activities. So there's a real push for getting people together in a room to network. And because that is our norm and our culture, anytime I'm working with attorneys and, I'm asking about their activities, often it's like that's number one. They talk about the networking that they do, but they're also coming to me because they're not getting the results that they want and they don't know if it's paying off. And my belief is that networking without a very specific plan is not going to work for you. And unless you just love networking, there are far better ways to still achieve what you could otherwise by following that plan. All right, before I get to kind of the rules of the road for if you are going to network, as well as what I consider to be better ways to address business development, let's talk about the downside to networking, because although you can make the best of it, I really do want to just talk for a few moments about why it could be a problem and why it could be hurting your career. That's right. I said hurting. Why it could be hurting your career, because it's not just neutral. It can have a negative impact. All right. So number one, it is such a time suck. Okay. Even if you were an extrovert, it is a major, major time suck. So, a lot of times networking, it's like a luncheon event. So that means it's going to be more than an hour if there's a networking component to it. And then you got to consider how long it takes to either walk there or drive there, whatever. Or they're during breakfast, or most often they are after work. So it's like a happy hour. Sometimes it's kind of rolled into maybe a dinner or something like that. So it's never like in and out, because you might even say, I'm going to swing by, but that doesn't work. That's not possible. And I don't think I ever really caught on to that until my husband. I would be like, I'm just going to swing by this networking event. And he would be like, okay, so that means you're going to be gone for a few hours, because you just get stuck, especially if there are cocktails involved. So again, even if you go and you have a good time, have great conversations, it is a major time suck. And one thing I know is that lawyers don't have much time. Everyone feels completely overworked, stressed out, and the one thing that they wish they had more of is time. So you're giving it away when you show up to all of these networking events. Number two, and the introverts are going to get me on this one, it's awkward. It is so awkward. So you go into these things and you maybe even know people on the list, but you walk in and what's the first thing you do? You look around to say, who do I know here? But that often defeats the purpose of networking, because if that's someone that you already can see and know and could like go have a good conversation with otherwise, you don't really need that. That's not the purpose of networking. So when you walk in and you go find someone you know and you have a conversation with them, I mean, you all could have just picked up the phone or emailed or gone to lunch. So instead, if you walk in and you're like, who do I not know that I want to talk to? Well, I mean, that's like every introvert's worst nightmare, right? Who wants to go talk to complete strangers? Or, you're trying to walk up and people are talking and you don't want to interrupt them, or people are kind of talking in a circle and you walk up and they all kind of look at you and it feels like high school all over again, because sometimes they'll like invite you in. Other times they like truly will give you these looks as to like, why are you coming over here? And it's like, maybe they already know each other. Why does this feel so cliquish? Am I the only one that like is feeling panic and anxiety just thinking about this? That's the purpose behind networking, is to get out there and meet new people. But, it can just be miserable. All right. So that's number 2. It's just awkward. And number 3 kind of goes hand in hand with that, but it's really about energy. And if you're an extrovert, it might give you energy. So this doesn't apply to everyone. But if you're an introvert, like for me, I am, like when I do Myers-Briggs, I'm 55% extrovert, 45% introvert, which means I still experience the same thing that I'm getting ready to describe for introverts, which is when you leave that situation, because it completely zaps your energy, like you then feel like you have to take a nap, or you can't talk to your family the rest of the night, or you're going to have to go in late to work. Not because like you had too much to drink, but because you have a hangover from all of the people at the networking event. So anytime that you're losing time and you're losing energy for something that's not really working, then that's totally messing up what you could be accomplishing otherwise. And then number 4, the problem with networking is, there generally is no focus. Even if, let's say it's a very specific industry, oftentimes when you walk into a room, you're just going to have a conversation with someone, and assuming it's with someone you don't know or you've not seen in a while, so that it would actually be effective, the conversations, again, going back to number 2 of being awkward, there's just not a lot of substance there. And so, you're just trying to be nice. You're just trying to chit chat. And we've all done it. We know how to do it. But at the end of that conversation, like, what just happened? Like, yeah, you were nice enough. You had a conversation, but is anything ever going to happen after that? Even if you exchange cards, maybe you put them on your email list. I mean, that's not a real genuine, true connection. Now, I guarantee you have met someone at a networking event where you really hit it off and you kept up that relationship. But more times than not, it allows you to have a contact where you kind of can know that person. But for the most part, it's not like you're friends, let alone you're ever going to give business to each other, because you still don't know each other. You had that conversation for the sole purpose that you were both in a networking event, and that's what you're supposed to do. So the negative impact comes from all of the opportunities that you have missed because you have been focused on networking. So if you're in a bad mood, if you are drained of your energy, if you are now having to work later to get work done, or, you just can't spend as much time on something that you needed to at work, or maybe you can't spend as much time, with your family, your friends, taking care of yourself, whatever it is, that can negatively impact you. You're probably going to be more likely to experience burnout. And if you're not getting the results, you're going to get really frustrated, and you're not going to know what's working. I recently did a webinar, and I'm going to share it with you at the end, but I talked about how when you're doing all of this stuff, especially networking, it's like throwing spaghetti against the wall and you're hoping something sticks. But when it sticks, you have no idea why it did. You might not even know when you threw it against the wall. So if you stop doing that and you get more focused, you're going to get much better results. And, there are very few people I know that actually enjoy networking. So hopefully this is coming as great news to you, that you're like, wow, she's saying networking is nonsense. Fabulous. What can I do instead? Because I've never really enjoyed it, or maybe I do enjoy it, but I'm frustrated that I'm not getting results, that I'm not getting the business I want, that people aren't reaching out to me and asking, if I want a specific job offer, right? Like it's just not working for you. Even if you know how to go in and be nice and have, conversations with people. So let's talk about next. What are the rules? If you're going to go into a networking situation, what are the rules you need to follow? And if you like networking, but it's not been paying off, this might be a way for you to test whether or not you can get better results within it, even if you don't want to follow my other approaches that I think are more effective. Okay, so let's talk about the rules of effective networking. All right, so the first thing that you want to do is make sure that you have set an intention, that you have a clear purpose, perhaps even a goal. You don't want to just walk in for networking's sake. You want to know, why am I doing this? This is also going to help you decide whether it's worth your time. And if you have not listened to episode number 8, why saying yes means saying no, I highly recommend that you go listen to that, because it talks about, if you're going to do something, you're saying no to other opportunities. So if you're going to say yes, then know why you are saying yes. If you can't articulate why you are saying yes to a networking event, you've already failed. Okay? Don't go. Don't do it. All right. Know why you're walking in to that networking event. Is it for potential opportunities to meet with people at other firms that you can get to know more about them? Maybe you're considering a lateral position. And this can be, it doesn't have to be in that moment. It could be, I want to meet as many people at as many different law firms as possible, so that if I ever want to make a move, I know what I'm doing. I know about the firms. But so that would be your goal. It could be, I'm going in to try to get referral sources. So maybe it's, a lawyer group and that's your goal. Maybe you're going into an industry group and you are looking for business development leads. You're looking for prospects. Whatever it is, know the purpose. Know the purpose. And this is going to then impact every single part of that event. It's not just a matter of getting clear in your mind as to the purpose, but every time you meet someone and you have a conversation, you should be trying to make sure that that conversation involves why you're there. It's all fine and good to chit chat with someone about, randomly where you work and what you do and about your kids and right, like just the small talk that we all have. But if you know the reason why you're there and what you're trying to accomplish, it can allow you to then ask them questions, whoever you run into, that's more aligned with what you need and want. And that doesn't mean you're going in and, being assertive and rude or anything like that, but it allows you to direct the conversation as opposed to asking, back, so if you're saying, okay, what do you do? Where do you work? Start asking them questions about the firm, about the culture, about why they chose that firm. Are they happy there? Ask them questions like that. You don't have to tell them what your goal is, but make sure that you get the benefit that you're looking for. Similarly, if you're wanting those referrals, if you're wanting to prospect, you're probably going to maybe look at the list in advance, and it's going to impact the way that you talk to someone as opposed to just having the random baseless small talk that very rarely gets you anywhere. Okay. Number 2, you want to have your elevator speech. Now, you can have a different elevator speech for each networking group. This is part of why you want to know what your purpose is, why you're going into this group to network in the first place. I know you all have heard me say this a million times, but the more generic you are as to what you do, no one's going to remember you. And they're certainly not going to pick up the phone and call you. And it's counterintuitive because you think you're going to be turning a ton of people away. But the more specific you can be as to how you help someone, the more likely someone is going to remember you if in the future that ever comes up for them or someone else, because you may be the only person they know that does that. If you're super general and generic, you're probably a dime a dozen. And why would they think of you when they probably know someone else better? So have your elevator speech for what you're going in for. So when someone says, what do you do? Your answer, again, it might be different based on the group. So based on your goal, you want to have some really quick one-liners for what you do, why you're there, why you're interested in the types of questions that you're wanting to ask people. But have that elevator speech down. Obviously, you don't want it memorized. That goes back to the awkward. But if you have thought it through, it's going to make it much easier when you then answer it in a very authentic way. 3, if you know who's going to be there, go ahead and identify your target list. And this may sound bad, but if you're going into a networking event and you have highlighted 3 or 4 names of people that you want to meet, you're probably not going to get to meet them all just because you know how networking events are. It's kind of hard to make that happen. Don't leave until you've met at least one of them. That is your goal. If it is moving from one place, from one person to another, you can even be talking to someone, right? And you can even say, oh, hey, do you know so-and-so? And if they do, you can say, I've really been wanting to meet them. Would you make an introduction? And if they say no, you can say, I've really been wanting to meet them. Would you like to meet them too? Like, let's go say hello together, right? So now you've got a new buddy and you're going to do that. Or you can just gently exit out. Again, that can sometimes be hard and awkward, but make sure that you're going to meet that person. Don't let it be random. And so many people don't ever ask for lists in advance, and most places will give it to you. Not everyone. And if they decline, that's fine. But if you can get that list in advance, it's super helpful for you. And always have more than one target, because sometimes that target won't show up. But that can make it a lot more focused. All right. And then number 4, and this is the most important one, you need to have a follow-up plan in place. If you're just going to network and you're going to do nothing with it, then that's a problem. I mean, how many business cards have we all collected over the years? And then you sometimes pull it out of a drawer. You're even looking at it in your online contacts and you're like, who is that? And it'll even have a note as to how you met them. It'll be some details about them. And you're like, what? Because we've all heard that tip, right? It can be helpful. When you get a business card, you write down some notes about what you talked about. But if you never talk to those people again, you're going to forget who they are, what that stuff means, and it's not relevant at all, not helpful. So you need to know what the plan is. It doesn't mean that you have to follow up with every single person you met. It could just be that you're like, okay, if I meet the targets that I've got on my list, or I meet someone that I think is worth having another conversation, you need to have the plan in place before you ever get to the networking event. You need to know how you're going to follow up, because if you're not already in the practice of doing this, then you're not going to do it. If the thought is, I'm just going to reach out the next day or whatever else, you'll forget and you'll put it off and you're not going to do it. That's just what we do, right? That's our habit already. So know what your plan is. One tip that I love, that I often share with people, with my clients, and that I'll share with you, is that when you're at a networking event and you really want to make sure that you get to follow up with that person again because they're a great prospect or lead or whatever else, you say hey, I've got to go, or I need to go talk to a few more people, but I really would love to continue this conversation where we're not around a million people. Let's go ahead and get something on our calendars right now. I love this. I love this, love this, love this, because few people are going to say no. And if they do, then that might be a clue that they're not as interested in meeting with you. And that's good information to know. But 2, you get busy. So when you go to them, if you might have had a fabulous chat with someone at a conference, but if you later reach out to them and they're busy in their office, they might easily push you off. So just go ahead and say, let's go ahead and get something on the books now. Do you want to do coffee, lunch, have a phone call? And then pull your phones out and put it in your calendar, and you've already got your next touch set up. Boom. I love it. Okay. So I just shared that one with you. That's going to help you out a ton if you start following it. All right. So those are the rules. If you're going to network, make sure that you are following those rules and see if you don't start to get a little bit more traction. All that said, I would rather see you do some other things that I think is far more effective than just this generic networking. Okay, first and foremost, niche. Niche. Go back and listen to episode number 7, Riches in the Niche. If you can get focused on who you're serving and how you're serving them in your marketing, that is going to be far more effective than just general networking. Now, again, you can use that method, kind of like with the elevator speech, to make networking even better. But if you eliminate networking completely and just get super niched in the way you're selling yourself, that in and of itself is going to be more effective. Number 2, use sales funnels. And this was in episode number 20. I kind of walked through what those look like. Sales funnels can work for anyone, whether it's, a divorce attorney or someone that is doing, high level big law work. They're going to look totally different. Totally different. The consumer may not even know they're in a funnel. They shouldn't, especially, the higher up they are. But when you have mapped out the way that you're going to pull people through your lead system in order to close and actually get their business, that is far more effective than general networking. Number 3, have a marketing calendar and know exactly where your marketing efforts are going. So if you listen to episode number 75, we did the marketing matrix. And that's about being focused. It doesn't have to be overwhelming. You're not doing a million different types of marketing, but go ahead and map that out. Knowing the way that you're marketing and how that's supporting your business, that is far more effective than general networking. And then number 4, pick activities that play to your strengths. We've been talking about how most people don't actually enjoy networking. It doesn't feel natural. There's a lot of things that do feel natural to you and that you're really great at. So focus on those, not the awkward networking. And then what you want to do when you find those activities that play to your strengths, you want to replicate them. Get super, super focused. So for example, if you're speaking, you might have like one core presentation that you just take to different groups over and over and over again. Or maybe you've got it on a webinar or something else. But you're basically putting it on repeat so that it's more efficient and you can get really good at it and figure out where you need to make tweaks to make it even better. Like that's going to give you a really leveraged strategy. I don't have an episode for you on that one, although I do go into quite a bit of detail on how to kind of walk through that piece in the business development webinar. So I did these webinars live in July, and so some of you might have attended them, but I recorded the very last one that I did, and it is now available anytime. It's just on replay. So you can grab a copy of that, watch the webinar. I have exercises in it. So it's not the kind where you're just going to be like bored to death because I'm just doing training. I actually have you think about things and I have you do exercises in it. And I've received great feedback and people who've already shared that they're seeing results from doing that work. So if you would like to watch that webinar, you just need to go to heatherjoyhubbard.com/business development. And if you are not in a place where you can remember that or jot that down or go to the website right now, you can always go to the show notes and get that later. And as a reminder, the way that you always get the show notes is you just go to hustleandflowpodcast.com/the episode number. And today is 81. All right. One last thing before we go. If networking with certain organizations or people, if that brings you, like if that helps you, if it's more like a support group, if it's a way for you to get out of the office and connect with people, go do that. But to me, that's not networking. That's going to spend time with people that you know and like. That's about relationships. I don't call that networking at all, but I want to make sure that you don't think I'm telling you to blow that kind of stuff off because that actually fills you up. It allows you to really refuel, fill your cup and not feel so lonely and, just really feel connected to the community. So I'm not talking about that. I'm only talking about when you're going to do all of these networking things for, business development and it's not really paying off. Although I will say for those of you that love the networking because it feels really good and that's what you're putting, if you're at a firm and that's what you're putting in your plan, just know that like when you don't get results over time, the firm is going to question what you're doing and why it's not effective. So, if you can blend the two and you're getting great results, fine. If not, don't call it business development. Don't put it in your plan. Just go do that for yourself and get a business development plan that's actually going to work and get you results. Okay? Because that's going to work out better for you too. It's not just your firm getting upset. Like, you want the business. So do something else on the side. If you're multitasking and it's not working, stop that. All right. So the masterminds that I've been doing, the 4-month masterminds I've told you about, they've been going great. I am so glad that we came up with this because it's really serving a need that was there, which was to be able to just work for a short amount of time with a group and with me to really kickstart things. So I just wanted to go ahead and give you a heads up that the next 4-month mastermind is going to start on October 29. And it is for solo and small firm attorneys, and it's going to be focused on business development. So if you are interested in being considered for that next round, go ahead and fill out the interest form now because we are filling those spots. And it's a really small group. We're just going to do probably 6 to 8, which means that they're going to get filled up. So you can't wait until later to the date. Now is the time to raise your hand if you want to be considered for that. And the way you do that is you just fill out the interest form at legalmasterminds.com. Again, we'll put that in the show notes, but it's legalmasterminds.com. And if you are not a solo or small firm attorney, or you're wanting to spend time working with me in a group on something other than business development, just know that we are going to do these on a rolling basis. So you too can go and fill out that form now. And so as soon as we open up a group, you'll be the first to know. I've already let the people on the interest forms know, and the people that couldn't get into the August groups know that it's open. So that's how that works. So if you know that you'd like to maybe be considered at some point, and there's no obligation, even if you get accepted, you can say no, fill out that form. It is at legalmasterminds.com. All right, that is it for today. Networking is nonsense. Permission to stop doing it. I hope you have a great week, and I'll talk to you soon. For show notes, downloads, and other free resources, and to keep the conversation going, head on over to hustleandflowpodcast.com. See you there.